Hey everyone, and welcome to 1.21 Gigawatts. I'm Peter, that's Matt.
Yeah, Alohomora. We're unlocking the door.
And if that wasn't any indication, we are of course going to be talking about Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them, the new film in the Harry Potter universe, written by J.K. Rowling herself, directed by David Yates, and of course this is. Do you know? Actually, it was just as I was watching this in the theater today. I was it just sort of dawned on me. It's been 5 years since
Yeah,
Deathly Hallows Part Two.
yeah.
Yeah, I hadn't realized it'd been that long. I felt like it'd been like 2 years ago. Like it felt like a short gap, and I was like, oh yeah, that was like 5 years ago now.
Yeah. A lot of time in the wood in those two movies.
Yeah,
So, you
there
know.
was a lot of time in the woods because I had to see the first half of that twice because
Oh,
when I went to I got dragged along to a midnight for the last one, and it was like a two-parter with the first one playing before it.
yeah.
And I just remember like throughout the camping stuff, just being like, couldn't we have just came to the second one on its own? Like I feel like I didn't need
Oh,
this again. Now,
yeah.
before we actually get into the movie, I feel like we should actually give some context for
Fandom.
our level of fandom. Yes, get into
Yeah.
this because we both come from very different places. Matt, you are a Harry Potter fan. You went to this
Yeah.
movie with your wand.
I wanted to, which I would have it right now, but I left it downstairs and didn't have time to run down and get it. So, um, but I'm in my Gryffindor shirt. I have my Pops place right about there. If I can line it up, I'm not good at this. Boom. But yeah, Harry and Sirius there. Dumbledore's somewhere back there. I need to get a newt. But yeah, Harry Potter's one of my probably top five fandoms. So to say I was looking forward to this is an understatement. That said, I wasn't a huge fan of the last two movies, part seven, just because they started that whole let's split the movie in two.
Part seven,
And
part seven, part one, and part seven, part two.
yeah,
Just to be
yeah,
accurate.
yeah. Not part eight, part seven, part two. And and yeah, I mean, they're always such dense materials, right? And you couldn't make the argument that you can split any of them.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Do,
lots of
do,
time in the woods. So I'm glad that this was based off of an original screenplay, not an actual book.
actually, just to sort of talk about that whole fad for a little minute,
Hmm.
I find it really interesting that a lot of series did that for about 5 years, and then all of a sudden, it just stopped to the point where both Marvel and Warner Brothers, who of course have got DC, both
Hmm.
announced two-parters. For
Yeah,
starting like this coming year, actually, would get part ones, but both of those were scrapped. Both of those, it was like, no, 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 they're just single movies now.
yeah.
Both of them changed their minds almost overnight, and I wonder if it's just as it went on, they seen the returns diminishing because the part ones were, especially the part ones, I feel were suffering a lot
Yeah,
in those splits because Hunger Games, the third one, the first part was oofed.
it was half a movie exactly. Like
It wasn't even.
anywhere where it started to
I
get,
would even say it was half a movie. That
yeah,
was like,
third.
yeah, that was like Act One, and it was
Yeah,
really unfulfilling to see
which
that.
and I enjoy that series, but I never went to. I never saw the second part. I didn't see Mockingjay Part Two. Also, I find it hilarious that if there's going to be an episode for your cats to go wild, it's this one.
Fantastic
So
cats and where to find them.
exactly.
Yeah.
But yeah, and stuff like Divergent, like which I never even got into,
Which was
them
basically that.
splitting.
Yeah, that bombed as well.
Yeah,
I don't even know if they're making the last one. I think it bombed.
I don't think so.
Yeah, part one of that last book or the second one bombed so hard that I don't even know if they're finishing. Because there was this weird news like last year or earlier this year where it was maybe going to finish as a TV show or something like that. It was really really weird.
Yeah,
But
but
no.
yeah, Potter. It was kind of Potter and Twilight kicking that off because they realized, for Warner's, I think with Potter it was we don't have any more of these, and Man of Steel hadn't come out, and Dark Knight, Nolan was ending his trilogy, so they were kind of looking something to milk it a little bit more and get that extra push. So, but I feel that they were kind of honest about that, you know.
Yeah.
Whereas these other ones, they're just kind of like, oh no, it needs it. Mockingjay did not need to be two. Any person I know that's read the books were like, well, if you're gonna split one, you should have split the first one because there's a lot more going on there. So
Yeah. Nah,
blatant cash grabs.
it was a really really worrying trend for a little while. At the same time, though, I wasn't even worried about the superhero ones
No.
because I felt like you could plan those as two parts because they weren't based on like a specific book. They were kind of like their own things. So I wasn't even worried about having two parters. But they themselves decided no, let's not do two parters. Let's do we'll do one 3.5 hour movie or whatever. That's fine.
Yeah.
We can do that, but
Which
we're not doing two
I'm
parters.
I still kind of wish that Avengers Infinity War was two because there's going to be
So
so many
much, yeah,
characters. Yeah, and you could almost do two distinct movies based off of
almost.
what the certain groups were doing, and still have the same end
You could.
point.
I I trust them knowing this. I trust them that they decide no, we'll do
Mhm.
one long movie instead of doing
Yeah.
two
Oh,
two-hour
of
movies or
course.
whatever. So um,
And with on the other side of the coin, I am so happy that Justice League is one movie because
yeah,
that
now,
means I'm
now we
not going to
are.
have to not
Uh,
see part two.
uh,
So,
but no, so to get this back on track, we went on a little tangent there. So Matt's a big Harry Potter fan. I, on the other hand, think it's okay. Like I'm not against Harry Potter. I've seen all the movies. I listened to Stephen Fry read the first two books. I never went any further than that.
fun story about that. He had said something diminishing about the books. Like,
Oh.
kind of, yeah. And so he had made a deal to read all of them on audiobook form.
Hmm.
Rowling had known this and had added a word that she knew that he couldn't say very well. So it shows up from book four on. It shows up as many times as she could fit it in because she knew he had trouble. And it turns out she completely misunderstood it from what he was saying because it's Stephen Fry and he's so dry,
Yeah.
you know? So I always laugh at that when I hear the Stephen Fry books. So how are those? Are those worth a listen if I've read the books like 5 times each?
Yeah. He's a very
Yeah.
good reader, and he does all the voices really well, and
Oh, okay.
Stephen Fry has a very good voice, I think, more than anything
Yeah.
else. Honestly, I think if you want to have a version to listen to, because I have heard a little bit of the American version, and
Hmm.
it did not have the same. There's something
Um,
about an English accent reading a story to you that just works a lot better than an American.
yeah, well, and especially that book series is very British. I
Yeah,
mean, the fact, like, that's how I learned what a jumper was, which is completely different here. A jumper is what, just slang for sweater, right?
yeah, sweater. Yeah,
Yeah. So, because in the early books, they were editing them and adding American words, but like around book three, she was just like, "No, we're just gonna leave it." So I feel like I learned some Britishisms in there. Like a row for a fight. And along those. 'Cause we don't say that here.
yeah.
Americans are very direct and to the point.
So yeah, so my feeling on this, and my feeling on the movies is that they're pretty decent for the most part. I don't love any of them. I don't really feel the need to revisit them ever. So I'm sort of someone who is fine with Harry Potter, but I'm not a part of the fandom. Like I know tons of people who love it. But when they were all falling in love with Harry Potter, I was just kind of like, it looks like a kid's version of Buffy. I'm good. That
Yeah.
was my opinion in high school, and
Like
you know.
there's slasher movies that I could be watching right now.
I could be watching people get murdered brutally, and you're coming at me with magic wands. Go away.
Yeah.
Um,
Uh,
but no, it's perfectly fine. I'm just not like a super into
yeah.
it, and I'm also anyone who knows me knows that given the choice between like something to do with magic and something to do with more science fiction esque, like fantasy, I will always go that way.
Yeah,
But
that's what way you edge towards.
yeah, but that doesn't mean I was getting into this with low expectations or anything like that. I wasn't necessarily
Oh,
getting into it with high expectations either. I was kind of just going in
yeah.
blank slate, no just completely
Well,
neutral.
that's how you should go into every movie, but
You don't.
no, nowadays Hollywood's learned to tap into certain fandoms, and so there's certain movies that are gonna have a ravenous like fan base chomping to get in there, and there's high expectations for a lot of things.
Yeah.
So, I wish I could have gone into this like that, but alas, me and my wand
Well,
could
it's
not.
taking us nearly 10 minutes to actually start talking about the movie, so let's actually
Yeah.
start talking about the movie. So, apologies for that. I may even put a timestamp in for this one, just if you want to skip straight to the movie talk, they can. But, yeah, so, spoiler free to begin with. We'll get into some proper spoilers later on. But if I was to give my impressions of the movie, just sort of, how did I feel about it? Kind of similar to how I feel about the Potter movies in a lot of ways, in that it is very, very dependable, very, solid enough. I think probably the weakest element of the movie for me is the direction and the look of it.
Mm.
It looks like the later half of the Harry Potter movies, which I also wasn't that keen on. And honestly, it's not necessarily something that's wrong with them. It's more just a taste thing. But it's got that kind of slightly desaturated, chromy look to it, which I'm just not
Yeah,
very fond of.
the David Yates look,
The David Yates look.
because he did them from I think 5 on.
Yeah. And I'm just not very fond of that. I think it looks, I don't know, kind of lifeless, I guess. Which is weird, because I feel like you're doing this stuff with this magic world. Everything should feel so vivid and feel so,
Yeah,
you know.
and I got that with the last couple movies because they started to get darker from Azkaban on. And that was really the last of the ones that stood out to me, which that's my favorite of the movies, directed by Alfonso Cuarón.
It almost
And
it almost goes against the nature of the character of Newt to have it looking so kind of bleak in terms of like images.
yeah, but I see, that's what I was gonna say. It made sense at the end there, but for this one, I don't know if they're like trying to set some subtle subtext of where the world's going, because it is set in the 20s, and it's before the depression and the crash and all that. So I don't know if it's supposed to be like a calm before the storm. It didn't bother me as much because I'm kind of used to it with the Potter. Like, oh, that's just how they look.
I mean,
But
like I said,
I
it's not.
understand. No, I understand the criticism, because now that you mention it, it should have been a little bit brighter. Because like when he goes into his, because I felt when he goes into his chest and you see where all the animals are, it doesn't have that look to it. There is a wondrous color that comes out.
Yeah, I don't know. It's not a big deal, but it's just kind of like it's just something I really don't like. But honestly, that would be kind of my biggest complaint. I actually thought this, and maybe it's because Rowling wrote the script from script. She actually wrote this as a movie first. I
Yeah.
feel like this translates to a movie better because it was already a movie to begin with. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't feel like it's been chopped and changed to fit it in. But it also, honestly, I feel like it's a more mature story than, or at least the messages behind the story are a lot more mature than any of the. Like, Harry Potter was very chosen one, save the world, blah 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 blah, kind of typical.
It's the shades of gray.
Yeah. Whereas a lot of this is about human factions and being tribal and, prejudice. Like, prejudice is the theme of this movie, which I actually kind of applaud. My favourite thing in this movie is the attitude of the wizard world towards the Muggles, or No-Magis, if you want to use the American term that they introduce here, and vice versa. Like, you have this group of people who hates wizards and is trying to expose them for being evil, and you have the wizards, like their council of, the president and the council, like, just like brushing things off, like, just, like, oh no, it can't be that, don't be silly. It's like this arrogance, that we see in our own governments, in the world. Like, there's a lot of stuff, there's a lot of symbolism, there's a lot of messages, and there's a lot of things to learn there that I think Rowling, who is very political on Twitter and stuff, she is someone who's very outspoken. I feel like she's actually put a lot of this into the story. Whereas Harry Potter was something that was maybe more aimed a bit more towards kids, in the sense that it was just like an adventure of this chosen one growing up and whatever. This has a lot more to say about what's going on.
Yeah, for a movie set in like 1928, it had clear themes that translate to right now.
Yeah.
So, and that's always a good hallmark, because I think it'll age well, being a period piece. Whereas I feel like sometimes the Harry Potter movies, the ones that came out earlier, feel of that era of movies, where this, I think, will stand out a little bit better. Just as you said, because it is more mature. It's not about the kids going through school. Like, this is Newt Scamander's job. Like, his job is to find animals and get them back to where they belong. And along the way, he, has his adventure.
Yeah, and even the animals as well. The wizarding world is prejudiced against them. They just see, oh, they're vicious things, they should be killed. And Newt's like, no. Like, they're actually...
Oh, it's the thing I love most about him is how much he cares about the animals, and then because humans are essentially animals, how much he does care about people. Like, I thought Redmayne, had that shine through in almost every conversation he had. Because the way that he looks at people, even the bad guys, there's never that adversarial thing. It's how can I help this guy? Yeah.
Yeah, Newt's mostly pretty fun. I would almost argue Redmayne kind of overdoes his like sort of shy awkwardness just here or there. It was like maybe a little bit too much, but for the most part, it was a lot of fun. And occasionally touching when he needed to be. The rest of the cast, I thought the core group of four, sort of who all sort of come together. The Muggle
Yeah.
Jacob, he ends up being a lot of fun.
Yeah.
He
I like that actor a lot. I just watched him on the Goldbergs this week
all right, okay.
for their Thanksgiving. He plays the uncle, and he always kind of plays that schlubby guy. But it wasn't about halfway through the movie that I realized, oh yeah, that's the guy that was in Balls of Fury, and he always plays the goofball. So I thought he really raised it here to play this blue collar, like he's a vet of World War One that works in a cannery place that wants to own his own bakery, and that's such a complex character compared to what I'm used to him seeing.
and he's also in many ways the heart of the movie.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that was good. I think Tina, her introduction is a little bit weird. I felt like the way she's introduced felt very like sort of forced. But once she actually starts progressing through the movie, once she starts working with Newt and going through that, she becomes a bit more interesting. Her sister, Queenie. She's pretty likable right from the get go. Her relationship with Jacob, again, kind of the heart of the movie. It's kind of, and again, that's one of the other things that comes up is like how the wizarding world view relationships with non-magic people, like and how
and I like and here they made a clear distinction about in America. There's laws against it. Like you can't be a no-mag, or you can't be a wizard and witch and marry a no-mag. Like that's against the rules because Newt points it out. Because you have some really backward laws about marriages between you guys.
Yeah, so I thought that stuff was really and again added these extra layers of like prejudice and things that they have to sort out and all that. And even the main villain, which I'm pretty sure is what the main sort of, because they've announced this is going to be 5 movies, and I feel like the main conflict for the overall 5 movies is the main villain that we see a little bit of, but not he's not the focus of the movie.
Yeah. You feel the presence of the villain from the beginning, but then once the adventure starts, it's not that you forget it because it's still looming, but you're more wondering what's going on with the New Salemers.
Yeah.
And what's his name? Ezra Miller's character Credence and his mom.
Yeah.
And then it comes back around, which I thought that's very Rowling to do. Like, that's a lot. That happens a lot in the Potter stories.
Yeah.
So,
but what I like about him though is that the themes of what his whole thing is also based on all the same prejudices. It's the same, tribal us v them. In fact, at one point, someone even says it's us versus them. Like that was a line that one of them says at one point.
Oh.
And like the conflict they're setting up for the entire series of movies is based on that. So even though the villain is kind of absent for most of the movie, the themes of what he's actually doing and the general feeling in the world, the all the little things that are happening as a result of this tension of this, it's essentially a brewing war. Like there's risk of a war happening, and this villain's trying to like incur that, and that it all feels like it's sort of. So I feel like, where's Harry Potter? There was almost like this weird thing where, because she hadn't finished the books yet and they were making the movies, they were maybe sometimes cutting out the wrong things because it was going to be more important later. Because this has been written as movies from the get-go, and it's been planned as 5 movies, like, everything in here is supposed to be here to set up future things for later, Whereas in the previous movies, they were, cutting things out for time, because they only have, like, 2.5 hours of screen time, and some of it might have been important for later,
Yeah, but I still feel that they would add it when they needed it, They would throw in dialogue or here and there, but I get that.
It feels tighter here, though. It feels like no.
It does.
Everything feels like planned. At least, I mean, I don't want to say it's completely planned, but it feels more like they've really set up what the conflict is for the rest of this series. I feel like I understand what the rest of this is about for the most part,
Yeah.
and I appreciated that, so that was good.
Yep.
But no, so as for something you mentioned, Ezra Miller's character there, we can't really talk
Yep.
too much about him without spoilers. I will say, every time he was on screen, all I could think was, "Oh, why is he the Flash?" like,
I did too, and that's my main problem with Warner's superhero stuff is I don't feel they understand the characters as much as they think they do because
yeah,
outside of Perks of Being a Wallflower, every time I see Ezra Miller, he plays a creepy guy. And in this, he plays a creepy guy, although they do a good job of explaining his background here and why he's so creepy, with his mom and the way she is. But you look up, like, he's going to be the Flash. And you compare him to Grant Gustin, which you shouldn't do, but it's kind of hard. They're playing almost the same character.
it's
Yeah.
I think I mean I shouldn't let that affect this, and it doesn't affect this movie. It's just something
No.
that's in my head as he was on screen. But it's the kind of thing where he's clearly born to play either creepy people, or even in Perks of Being a Wallflower, he's not creepy, but he's very alternative. He's not a normal person. He's not like the Flash is a character who makes you feel kind of warm because he's like comfortable and he makes you feel welcome, and
Yeah.
And Ezra Miller kind of doesn't make you feel that way at all. He feels like he's prodding you to he's trying to provoke you into whether it's accepting him in Perks of Being a Wallflower, or here where it's just like outright creepiness, and he's but yeah, I don't know. It was in my head every time he popped up.
Yep. And he plays that. It's like what's his name? He plays George McFly. Crispin Glover.
Crispin Glover, yeah.
He's
a similar thing.
He's kind of
Yeah.
he's in the same kind of boat where when he pops up, you're kind of like, oh, what's his deal?
Yeah.
You're not trying to give him a hug. You're trying to kind of keep him at arm's length. So,
Yeah.
and I think that's a good skill as an actor because he doesn't have a lot of dialogue here to work with. So it's a lot of body language and positioning, and I thought he did a really good job.
Colin Farrell, who plays Graves, who's one of
Graves.
the what's the organization called? The
MACUSA.
MACUSA.
Yeah, Magical Congress of the USA. Which I think she could have been a little more imaginative, but cool. But he's an R. He's basically like the head of the FBI for the Wizards, and his main story is that something's destroying parts of New York, and they don't know if it's a person or a creature, but he's gonna find it and bring it under control, which leads him to Newt, who Newt thinks it's a creature. So they kind of start working in opposition towards the same goal of finding what's doing this and trying to control it.
Yeah.
But I thought Farrell was good. I mean, last time I had seen him was in True Detective Season 2, and he was a mess. So to see him put together here was nice.
I thought it was okay. It's not that I have a problem with Colin Farrell, but it was just kind of like right from the start he seems sketchy, and I think it's intentional, but it's the kind of thing where when I see a character with their hair slicked back like that, I just kind of feel like, all right, I already know where this guy's going.
That's the villain. Yeah, that's
like I just like even if he's not the villain, he's going to be villainous versus the protagonist, and like you can sense it from the second he's on screen.
Yeah. But what I liked about him too is every time I thought I had him figured out, something new would happen, and so you're kind of like, well, maybe he's just doing his job, but he's not that he's a bad cop, but he's not afraid to get his hands dirty, if that's what it means to solve the case. And so I kind of like how complex he was in that, and I feel that's the strength of the movie is Joe Rowling really understands characterization and how to define these characters.
Yeah.
More so than the actual plot, which was my main problem. Was the story's good, but it's not like, that's not one of the better stories I've read from her. But I still enjoyed it. Like, it's not taking away from enjoyment of the movie. It's just kind of like, this is gonna happen and this is gonna happen, because that's just the way the story unfolds.
It's funny actually, because the story for me, like for the first half of the movie, I was worried that it felt too disconnected, and I was like, obviously it's going to cross paths in the middle somewhere, but I was worried it was going to do it too late.
Yeah.
but it did it just kind of a nice time. And by the end of the movie, I actually felt that compared to all the Harry Potter movies, I feel like all the plot elements actually felt a lot more cohesively together than a
Yeah,
lot of those did.
yeah.
So I
They
would
def-
applaud. I'd applaud that. Um, as for anything else in spoiler-free territory, I don't know if I have much else to add before we can dive into like proper plot details.
no.
But I will say it is good. I think Harry Potter fans are going to be all over it. I don't see why you wouldn't be. I
Yeah.
think for me, as someone who, thinks Harry Potter's fine but isn't like over the moon about it, I think this actually works slightly better than that does
Yeah.
because it does have more to
Well,
say.
yeah. Well, and you hit it earlier that it was meant to be a movie from the get-go.
Yeah.
Like the book, and I say that in quote that it's based on, was a hand guide to the different magical creatures that each had like a paragraph describing them all. And so the fact that she took that and wrote a story that, that works around the magical creatures, but they're almost secondary, because Newt still is looking for all
Yeah.
these creatures that got out of his
Which, yeah, I
caves.
suppose we should actually mention that a lot of the fun
Yeah,
stuff in the movie is him hunting down creatures that have escaped from his
yeah,
suitcase. And there's a lot of really good comedy. There's one of the main creature that gets out early on
yeah,
loves stealing gold and jewelry, and
yeah,
there's a lot of fun little comic moments with that and things. So,
yeah, yeah.
so
So,
oh, that's cool.
but yeah, the fact that she was able to make a cohesive movie out of that tells me her skill as a storyteller. So, but yeah, as a Potter fan, I was exceeded the high expectations I had. So,
Yeah, so that would be the spoiler free
hmm
section. What I will say now, though, we're going to go into full spoilers. So it's full spoilers for
yep,
Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them. This is the point of no return if you haven't seen it yet. So yeah, let's go into the full plot of this movie here. Like I say, I thought Jacob was the heart of the movie, and to an extent also Queenie, who he has like a sort
yep,
of budding romance with, and she has this like kind of mind reading power, and she sort of picks
yeah,
up that he has feelings for her right away, and is instead of being made awkward by it, she just sort of rolls with it, and it's
yeah.
kind
She
of
makes him
endearing to
feel
watch.
comfortable.
Yeah,
She's, and I like that, and she brings it up to Newt because we find out like there's another tie to the Potter movies where he was in love with a Lestrange, and he has her picture down in his where he keeps his animals, and she reads his mind and then comforts him too. So that's like she's very maternal, and I think that's a nice key to the character
yeah.
with Queenie.
And the funny thing is one of my concerns as the movie was coming to a close was like probably what I like other than the sort of the messages, but you can't make a movie just on messages. You have to actually
No,
have a fun plot. What I liked the most about it were probably the core four characters like getting into height. Once those came together like halfway through the movie, that's when I maybe started having more fun. Is because they were together and they were
yeah,
reacting off each other and so on. And I was like, I don't like because you could almost like I don't think they will, but you could almost have the second movie be just Newt with a new set of characters, and I really
yeah.
don't want that. I feel like now you've set up these characters that I have grown to like.
Yeah, that was my main problem with the end with Jacob because I felt like you didn't have to mind wipe him. Like you could have put him in your case, Newt, and he could have been like your caretaker of animals.
It could have been, yeah.
Like I don't
Well,
know.
that's
I
well.
I, I like the non-magical sidekick kind of character.
Yeah, yeah. No, I like that too. And I wasn't really feeling him being mind wiped either. But for me, I'm giving hope because I feel like because the final moment of the film is Jacob. They actually give
Yeah,
him the closing moment before it cuts to credits, and Queenie goes to his baker shop. His baker shop. Who calls it a
yeah.
baker shop? A bakery, and she like sees him and smiles, and he smiles back, and there's almost a moment of like you could almost believe that he remembers.
Recognition.
Yeah,
Well, and so he makes this bakery. So his whole idea is he's gonna make a bakery because he feels like his soul is dying working at this cannery, and he wants more of life. And so he gets wrapped up into this by being at the bank at the wrong time with Newt. Things go sideways. So they mind wipe him. Newt basically leaves him with enough money through these shells that are actually silver to get his bakery while he's mind wiped. And in his bakery, he has created these like pastry concoctions that are the animals
yeah, that are based
that
on the
he encountered.
monsters that he's seen throughout the movie. Yeah,
Yeah, so he was mind wiped, but there might be a little bit more that he can
Well, yeah,
remember.
well, that's the point, though, is that the final moment is
Yeah,
a moment of hope that he actually isn't lost, that he isn't just going to be gone forever, that he will be back,
yeah.
and he will be included, and that Queenie is not willing to let him go because she has feelings for him. Um,
Mhm.
and I mean, maybe that says something that at the end of the movie, that's maybe what I was most invested in terms of the characters, is that I wanted them to stick together and him to like tag along for
Mhm.
the ride. Um, it's almost
Well, they're your emotional tie.
well,
Like, well,
do you know what it
go
reminds me
ahead.
of though? It reminds me of like the end of Beverly Hills Cop, right? As weird as this sounds, right? Let me explain this. So at the end
Go
of Beverly
ahead.
Hills Cop, Axel Foley gets kicked out of Beverly Hills because they don't want him there because he's a renegade, and he goes back to Detroit. But obviously, you don't do Beverly Hills Cop 2 without Rosewood and without Billy,
Right,
you know? Or is it
right.
Billy Rosewood? Who's the other one?
It was Billy Rosewood, but I can't remember the other guy.
Oh, God, that's going to annoy me
Rosewood
now.
partners.
Yeah, that's going to annoy me. But you don't want to do Beverly Hills Cop 2 without those characters. So they find a way to get him back to Beverly
Right.
Hills. Same again, he leaves at the end of the second one, he comes back in the third one. And also, it's called Beverly Hills Cop, so he kind of has to go back to Beverly Hills. But forget that. You want those characters, though. Like, you care about him interacting with those characters. And for me, it's also almost the same thing, where he has to team up with those three characters again in the next one. And if they don't, it's kind of a missed opportunity, because I feel like that's your new trio. There's four of them, of course.
Yeah.
It's more of a quad, but
Quartet.
quartet. Thank you.
Yeah.
But that's your Ron, Hermione, and Harry.
Hermione.
You know,
Yeah.
in this one, this is the core cast that we care
Well,
about.
and also as a fan that got really into the Pottermore writings about America and the world, we only skimmed on the stuff that she set up, like with the American school. That gets a shout out, Ilvermorny, and that the girls went there, the sisters, Tina and Queenie. And I kind of just want to see the rest of America, how they deal with magic. And, where we're at the end, you know, and how that causes ripples everywhere else. So, as much as I want to see Newt travel the world, I do want to see him come back to the U.S. and meet up with his friends.
Yeah, I don't really even care where he goes. I just want him to meet up with the friends and have them be there for
Yeah.
it. Because otherwise, it will feel like a really weird sequel where it's just him, and it's like, yeah, he was fine, but like I say, Jacob and Queenie were kind of the heart of the movie.
Yeah, they were
So
your emotional tie, even more so than Tina and Newt, where they tease a romance there that it's very awkward, which fits both
yeah,
characters.
yeah, they tease it at the end, and that's fine. So
Yeah.
let's talk about the sort of the actual plot of the Obscurus or the Obscura. What was it?
Yep.
It's Jacob calls it
Obscurus.
like Jacob calls it like five different things throughout the movie, so I
Yeah.
can't remember which one was the actual official
Yeah.
word.
But the one that was in his case was an Obscurus.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
So that's what I'm going with.
So that's the whole idea of this Obscura. This is the thing that's causing all the destruction in New York, and it's the thing that Colin Farrell's hunting, and
Yep.
it's basically a child who's, for either out of fear or out of people around them, repressing their magic. They're not learning to handle it. They're not becoming a wizard. They're repressing it. So it basically takes a life of its own kind of thing, and it causes this destruction. And normally what happens is that the kid will be dead before they even hit the age of 10. Like, that's the
Yeah.
oldest they've ever gotten to, because it's such a
Self-destructive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're looking for the kid, and we have this subplot with the New Salem. Was it called?
The New Salemers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's Ezra Miller's character, and he's like adopted. His adopted mother is the one who runs this, and she like beats him, and like she hates wizards and magic, and any mention of it,
Yep.
and this all set up, and you obviously assume it's going to be one of the kids there, and of course it turns out to be Ezra Miller himself, and that's kind of the big deal, is that he's this powerful that he's survived until he's like 20 with this.
Yeah, and he's the one that's helping Graves,
Yeah.
and it's right under Graves' nose the entire time. Like Graves is like, I saw a vision of you with a young kid. We need to find this kid, and it was Credence the entire time, and I like the idea of the Obscurus too, because it's like if you try to stifle who you are for too long, you do kind of kill yourself.
Well,
Like
yeah, again, it's like it's actually
Yeah.
it's messaging that's very rooted in today's world. It's like, don't is this a metaphor for being gay? Is it a metaphor for being whatever? Like, don't hide it, don't repress it. Be who you are.
Right.
If it's something like that you should be allowed to be, or if it's something you have to deal with and confront
Yeah.
it, either way, you have to deal with it. You have to
exactly.
You know,
You have to be proactive, and
yeah.
it's the opposite kind of a squib, and where that's a non-magical person born into a magical family. This seemed like it was a magical person born into a non-magical, and they try to hide it
Hmm.
best that they can. And the one that was in his case came from a 9-year-old Sudanese girl that he had almost saved, but the Obscura was too powerful. Then you find out that the Obscura is the one that's in New York is far more powerful than what Newt's used to,
Yeah.
and so that led to some nice action sequences. I thought.
Yeah, the action
Uh,
stuff was okay. I definitely had more fun with the funnier stuff when they were chasing down the
oh yeah,
monsters. You know, the big
yeah,
rhino
yeah.
type thing in the Central Park and the invisible thing.
The
All those different.
yeah the demi guys, which is like a lemur that can go invisible.
Yeah.
And they're like, "How are we gonna find it?" And it's like, "We'll find it. Don't worry." But it's invisible. Yeah, I have my ways.
Still though, the
Hey,
biggest laugh I got out of any of that stuff was probably the main one with the beak who was robbing the jewelry and stuff.
yeah,
When they go past the
Niffler.
shop window, and he's posing with the jewelry, trying to like not be noticed. That was really funny.
Yeah,
Uh,
pretty great.
but yeah, back to the main plot. So obviously, like Newt runs in, tries to talk to, Ezra Miller's like not even him as a character. Like when he's like all
Right.
smoked out and he's the Obscurus,
Yeah,
and Colin Farrell comes in. He tries to he's more violent and demanding, and
yeah,
Tina shows up, and they have this kind of showdown almost, and then the magic FBI all show up, and they're all got their
yeah,
wands pointed at it. And I actually thought it was kind of a dark ending because they actually kill him. Like, because you almost think
yeah,
that the way this is probably going to go in your head, especially since it's part of Harry Potter and it's
yeah.
suitable for kids, is that they're going to talk him down and we're going to get a sort of happy-ish ending where they stop him from destroying everything and he can maybe be rehabilitated, but
Right.
instead they all shoot him and he dies. It's actually quite a dark
Yeah,
ending.
yeah, yeah. Yeah. And so I felt that's setting the table for what's to come. Like
Mm,
this is the first shot, and it's only gonna go
there will be
start from
casualties.
here. Exactly. And especially this guy who he wasn't exactly innocent, but he really didn't have a choice to be put where he was put. And it is tragic that
Yeah,
they couldn't bring him in. And
yes.
again, like it's Newt caring about people as much as he cares about animals. That he wants to help this kid, and the McCusa squad gets in his way.
And
So
that's again, we talked about this in the spoiler-free section, but the whole Makusa's whole thing throughout the whole movie is keeping the magic world secret because
the
if
secrecy.
if they're not secret anymore, it will ignite a war. It will
Yeah.
start this war between Magis and no Magis. And yes, I called them
Yep.
Magis because, haha. Um,
We don't need no stinking matches.
but so again, like I say, all of that is building the overall sort of story of what this is going to be. I was actually really surprised when they kind of get Grindelwald at the end, who's the sort of terrorist, I guess we'll call him, the magic terrorist.
Proto
Yeah,
Proto Voldemort. Like
yeah,
we'd heard about him in the other movies because that was like Dumbledore's claim to fame is that he brings down Grindelwald, and Dumbledore's a great wizard, but he's just a teacher, right? Like he's not an R, he's not any of the stuff. And so now we actually get to see Grindelwald prepping for his, what he's going to do, which I didn't think we were going to get so soon because they had announced Grindelwald for the sequels. And I thought this was just going to kind of be the specter of Grindelwald, but no. And that's his whole plan is he wants to use this Obscurus to basically kill the secrecy
yeah.
and let no mages and muggles know that no wizards exist and we're better than you and
Yeah,
we're
it's
gonna
not. It's
reign
not. All,
supreme.
it's not even just that he wants the secrets to the end. He wants to then basically become the master race, essentially.
He's well, which is weird. He's like Magneto, and for all his faults,
Yeah.
Dumbledore's like Xavier. And there's a reason why that relationship works. And it keeps coming up in different types of stories. But yeah, I like that aspect of the story because it tied it into the main canon really well, so it doesn't feel so isolated. But it gets to be its own thing.
Well, yeah, it does. But the thing I really liked about it was the fact that it is setting up all this stuff like for the whole series of movies. It is building, it's world building, it's setting up the whole conflict of this entire thing, and I really liked that. That was really good. So,
Yeah.
but of course, we need to talk about the reveal. So Colin Farrell is playing Graves, of course, and Graves is doing all this, and it's basically just at the last minute, Newt's like, something's not quite right here.
Yeah, you're too. So the Macusa kind of turns on Graves, and they start firing at him because they know he's up to bad things, and he suddenly becomes like a wizard commando, and starts taking him out left and right.
And also, right before that, he gives what is essentially a Hitler-esque speech about how wizards are better than than humans or regular humans. So it all sort of builds up. So Newt does like a reveal spell. He's like, there's like there's a mirage, or there's a illusion going on here, and he reveals, and Jesus Christ, Johnny Depp just appears.
So when this happened, I was in a fairly full theater. I went Friday night, and it wasn't packed, but it was full, and people audibly gasped. Not me though. I let out a ha. Just because I didn't know how else to react.
Do you know what's funny though? Because I actually seen a news item like a week ago saying, and I never actually read it. I just seen the headline saying, Johnny Depp's surprise character in Fantastic Beasts. And
see, I didn't see that one.
Yeah, see, I saw that, so I knew he was popping up at some point, but I'd forgotten about it. So when he appeared, I was like, oh yeah, I remember seeing something about him being in this.
See, I just heard he was cast for the next movies. And I was like, okay, so cool. So he'll show up, and we'll have the Spectre of Grindelwald. And nah, man, they gave it to us right out in the open, and I thought that reveal was pretty cool. Like, suddenly there's albino Johnny Depp.
Which, he can never just look like Johnny Depp, does he? He has to always have some sort of weird hair and facial hair or whatever.
With this haircut, as it started to reveal, I started thinking David Lynch. That
would have been
like David Lynch's.
That would have been amazing. See if it was David Lynch and he was the evil mastermind of this series. This series would go up about 10 points on my scale.
For you, So, so that was a nice little, Again, the press can't play nice and just like not leak that he has a surprise character,
it was a cool reveal. I have to admit, though, I'm not a huge Johnny Depp fan. It's kind of, and all I could really think after, I got kind of snarky once they revealed them. All I could think, every movie you've been in's bombed in the last 5 years, so I guess now's the time to attach yourself to a brand that's a surefire hit.
That's not going to,
it's not going to self-implode. Yeah. Jeez, because even Pirates 5 or whatever the next one is, I don't think that's going to do that well.
I don't think it is. I'm more excited for it because I like those movies, and it can only go up from the last one. So,
do you know what? Obviously, they did this a while ago. They cast them and they shot this right. I can only imagine how much the Warner Brothers execs were sweating throughout that whole period of did he hit his wife, stuff like is he abusing his wife? Like, see through that period they must have been sweating. Like, see if that turned out to be like, oh no, he's guilty of this and we're going to, he's a woman beater now, and like, how much?
I can't imagine he would have been that hard to replace in this one.
True, it's one scene. Sure,
it might have complicated things down the line, but
they would have done it. They would have replaced him last minute. They would have done that.
Yeah, of course. So, but good. But they didn't have to. So I'm kind of looking forward to seeing him because I do like when Johnny Depp's the heavy, much more than when he's playing the comedic sidekick or Jack Sparrow. So
actually, admittedly, I don't remember seeing him in this type of villainous role before. At least not in a long time. So. At least it's different, which is nice, because I feel like he's been playing the exact same goddamn character for the last 10 years.
Exactly. Whether it's the Mad Hatter, Jack Sparrow, Mordecai, which Netflix keeps telling me to watch. I was like, what's wrong with you, Netflix?
Cancel subscription right now. Cancel subscription.
Just because I watched the pirate movies on there when they added them doesn't mean I want to watch Mordecai. Come on.
Oh, God.
But yeah.
Even the one movie that could have been good with him in it, Transcendence, ended up being an absolute train wreck. So
it was your negative review that kept me from watching it. So
not good.
Yep. But
And
yeah, but Fantastic Beasts and to bring it back there, very enjoyable, I would say, and it's worth a watch. I want to try to see it again before other movies start coming out because it is one of the ones I do want to see if I pick up on some other stuff that I missed.
yeah, I would recommend it, especially for Harry Potter fans. Now, I would probably say I think I'm going to like these more than Harry Potter. I think I will.
It's and I understand that too because they are mature and they are telling a bigger story than the Chosen One.
Now, not that I don't like a Chosen One story, because I do, but I will say, like, is it better enough? Because with Harry Potter, I never really feel like I want to revisit it. Will I want to revisit this? Right now, I don't know. We'll see how I feel in a year's time. Will I want to rewatch it? You know, when I see the second one, will I, you know, when the whole series is done, will it be like this great complete story where I do really want to go back and watch it? I don't know. I mean, time will tell.
Yeah.
But solid and dependable, fun where it needs to be. I wish the visuals were better for me, just in a sort of color scheme kind of way, and a better
Yeah.
director maybe. But other than that, I can't really fault it too much.
No,
So,
not at all.
so yeah, that's Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them. Let us know what you think of the movie in the comments below. We always like to hear.
Yep.
Like and subscribe and all that stuff. It helps us out if you do. Check out the other stuff that's on the channel. Get us on Twitter at mailed_fuzz. Of course, remember me and Tim do horror movie reviews every week too on streams after midnight if you're interested in this kind of thing. But yeah, that's us guys for another episode of this. We will be back soon. I won't say when, but soon.
Yeah,
The next big movie we're going to do is Star Wars. Obviously, I don't think there's anything else huge
Rogue
in
One.
between then. But I do think we have at least one sort of catch-up movie we want to get done before then that we'll pop
Yeah.
on for. But so thanks very much for joining us, guys. We'll see you next time. Keep watching movies. We're out.